All Bible-believing Christian churches share a common heritage that dates back 2,000 years to those early churches we read about in the New Testament. And yet we each have our own unique story, people, characters, and events that make up who we are as a church. Hi, I'm Mike Buckingham, and I'd like to tell you about the history of Moores Hill Church of Christ.
You feel good when you know that you're doing the will of the Lord. He said, go into all the world. Well, this is part of the world.
September of 1965, the work of Moores Hill Church of Christ was begun in an old theater in Milan, Indiana.
We'll never forget that day. It was on a Sunday afternoon, sun shining brightly, that we had promoted the beginning of that work, and people from all over the Whitewater area came for that afternoon service.
Dale Day was part of the Whitewater Christian Evangelizing Fellowship, which founded the new church.
The Great Commission says, go into all the world and preach the gospel, and we could see that there were areas in the Whitewater in the Whitewater area that needed a New Testament church.
And so, with the support of many other churches in the area, this new tiny congregation was born.
That theater was filled, packed, all filled, and people standing outside of the doors and all that. Cars were parked all over the town of Milan, and it really made a tremendous impact.
Bill Reed was our first paid minister.
You had your theater seats, you know. You didn't have your pulpits like we have, or the pews like we have now. But if someone in the middle of the aisle wanted out, everyone had to stand and fold their chairs or their seats up so that they could get out.
The new Church of Christ was beginning to grow, but the theater was proving to be a challenge.
Of course, there was no sound system, so Bill Reed as minister had to talk very loud because it was a very big building.
The building, when it rained, as you know, a theater has a sloping floor.
Yeah.
Well, water would get down there where the minister was, and he had to wear boots because he was walking in water. So they decided that, you know, this is a time that we need to get our own building.
And most of the folks, members and so forth, were coming from the Moores Hill area, and so they purchased land where the building is there now and built the building there.
1968 was an exciting time to be part of this still relatively new church.
Everyone was very, very excited about it.
Every congregation was exciting, and nobody knows, unless that they're involved in new work like that, what it's like to give birth to a new congregation.
That small little church that started with a handful of people, we had such dedicated leaders that they saw the need that we were growing, and they stepped out on a big limb of faith to just build what we have here, but it was just overwhelming pride to come through that door.
The new building was perfect, yet it wouldn't be long before this growing church filled its new home to capacity.
Oh, it was very snug. When we had our fellowship dinners, well, first of all, there was no kitchen, and there was just a few classrooms in back of this sanctuary, and they would open that up, and we had to bring our own plates and forks because, you know, everything was carried in.
To alleviate that problem, new plans were made.
We decided we needed classrooms and we needed some place to have fellowship.
It was the basement and let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 new classrooms. So it gives us a total then of 6 nice classrooms.
I remember the men coming here, pouring the floor after the walls were done, working up in the late hours of the evening.
I worked on construction all my life, but a lot of the men didn't. But they had the attitude and the willingness that when you said, I need this done or this done, they were eager to do it. I mean, they were willing to, I don't know what I'm doing in this field, but you show me what to do and I'll do it. It was this attitude all the way through it.
It truly was a source of pride.
This is not what somebody else done. This is what the men of the church did.
It was a celebration because there was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears.
Step by step through the ups and downs.
At one time, our church attendance was so low and our offering was so poor.
There was a lot of weeks I had to tell Dan, wait till I can get to the bank to cash your check. It was that close.
Been on faith a lot, and he's never failed us. We've come through a lot here.
They clung to their faith and to one another.
It's definitely a friendly church, and it is also an evangelizing church. We've been blessed with very good ministers. Bill Hill and his family were here 14 years, and we grew a lot during that time.
Numbers continued to grow, and so did the reasons to celebrate.
We've seen souls won to Christ, and it's just a joy to see it grow.
There's just so many good memories.
They had Sunday school, which it was pretty active, the Sunday school was.
The youth program was on the move and ready to grow.
And we said, hey, we can't get by with 2 classrooms anymore. We got too many kids. And so we built the addition on the back, and we've seen the church begin to grow.
We actually started out in the basement when we come here.
Luke and Nancy Lunsford stepped forward and started a youth program that would meet on Thursday evenings.
Well, we actually run a bus route. We would we'd leave here and go pick up kids out of 3 counties.
And with that kind of dedication, there wasn't much of a surprise when the program caught fire.
We had right around 90 kids that would come, all total. There was a few nights that we would have, we had 90, like I think 93, a couple nights that we had 93 kids. So I mean, it was just, it kind of spread it like wildfire, the kids.
To improve fellowship opportunities like these and to make the facility handicapped accessible, it was time to grow again.
We got together one day and said, well, so we can add a fellowship hall to the building in the back. And so Jack Kittle, who was treasurer at the time, he checked on the financing and said, yes, we can afford it. And so we decided to add on the 20 by 40 fellowship hall, which we have now.
In the basement area, there were several times when someone came to dinner that had to be carried down the steps.
Once again, it was the men and women of this church who proved critical to the project.
I said, you know, if we can get the manpower, I said, we can build this ourselves. And so we sat down and the men said, yeah, we can do this.
And do it they did.
We took Saturdays and evenings.
When we was building the fellowship hall,
when we got ready to set the roof truss, we had a man who would volunteer to do it for us, and we had it all set up on a Saturday.
we had the walls up.
The only problem was it was in early March.
It was raining.
It rained all day, and it was cold.
What are we going to do? The crane has to be back eastern part of Cincinnati Monday.
Are we going to set him in the rain? Because he told us, he says, I don't know when I can get back to do it again if you don't do it today.
We worked in the rain, putting the trusses up.
We said, well, let's go for it. And so we spent about 10 hours all day long in the rain and the cold.
I can still remember I was the guy in the middle. I had a rain suit that I rode a motorcycle. That's what I wore. Still got wet.
We had fun doing it. Fell off the roof a couple of times, and a couple of the guys got, you know, some smashed fingers and all, but all in all, it went together well.
Soon the project was finished, and it was time to celebrate.
It was on a Thanksgiving dinner in November, and it wasn't 100% complete, but we wanted to use our brand new fellowship hall.
I remember us having it and the guys working on it and stuff back there, but it was exciting for us.
We really rejoiced when we got away from the 2 classrooms and were able to go to the basement. That was a big step up for us. But it was a giant step when we come out of the basement and went into the fellowship hall. It was a world of difference.
Through it all, memories.
Yeah, the Christian Olympics was the most exciting, I think.
Our children have grown up in this church, so that's been a lot of good memories.
There was always something to make us laugh.
I guess it's the friendships over the 38 years that I remember.
Over the years, we've laughed and cried with one another. We've leaned upon each other during life's ups and downs. We've prayed together and worshiped. And no, it hasn't always been easy. But I can tell you this, there is no better place to be on earth than in God's family. And so we will continue to write our history.